Hello, my dear friends, Tiffany Carroll here. And in this time together, we're going to be looking at what does it mean to invest in self? And I mean this in a particular way. What particular way do I mean? What does it mean to invest in self in a way that actually has exponential return? And so in order to answer this or to explore this topic in a substantial and meaningful way with you, we have to look at what did it mean to invest in the self in the past? What did it look like when we would invest in ourselves in the past? And how is that different now? And why is it important to look at this with fresh eyes now? Because we are in a radically different place than we were 3 years ago, and certainly than we were 5 to 10 years ago. And oftentimes, I want to say this at the onset for the sake of this spaciousness in this conversation. You have to remember that anytime we enter into a conversation about something that we have history with, we have an opinion about it, we have beliefs about it. And oftentimes we have beliefs and thought forms about it that we haven't even ever questioned. We've just assumed that they're true. And so as we enter into this conversation, I invite you to have a lot of spaciousness and a lot of curiosity to, in essence, want to find out more of what's true right now. What's true right now? What actually makes sense right now? So let's start off actually in the past. I want to start off with a historical story to kind of set the foundation for what investing in the self traditionally has looked like and how it has been evolving to become different and what it actually looks like now and what are the options that are available to you now in regards to this. So in 1998, I started my higher education at Bastyr University. I entered the program, a doctoral program in naturopathic medicine. I did 3 years of the doctoral program and then switched to a master's program in Chinese medicine. I was there a total of 6 years and I borrowed, can you guess? $167,000 in student loan debt is what I acquired, what I tapped over that time. And it's a very strange thing with student loan debt because you don't really see the money. You know, you sign papers, it goes to the school, it's all sort of nebulous. And by the way, that was for tuition almost solely. It included some money for books, but I was working as many hours as I could work in a restaurant in order to support myself during that time. So I was just finishing with school. And I remember it's like an exit meeting that you have to have where you sit with a financial guidance counselor and you look at your student loan debt and you make the plan. And I was mortified. I had no idea how I was going to pay this amount of money back because I couldn't even relate to myself as a human being that could generate that kind of money flow, let alone have enough to live on and then pay this money back. And so you know what my plan was? This is crazy. This is what my plan was. And this plan was the best plan that I could come up with the resources that I had internally for myself. And that was that if I couldn't pay the money back, I would leave the country. I would go like to Mexico and run away from the debt that I'd had no idea how to pay back. Mind you, in that schooling that cost $167,000, I learned nothing about business, nothing about entrepreneurship, nothing about money and how to be with money and my relationship to money, and nothing about my own specialization, my zone of genius, and what made me and my abilities marketable and part of, in essence, how I could flow money to myself and to the business. So of course, the plan that I came up with was I'll just leave the country if I need to. How absurd. I remember being in my dinky little apartment on Capitol Hill with my boyfriend at the time, who was a little bit older than me. He was very, very fiscally responsible. He had grown up in a very fiscally responsible family. And it was so foreign to me. It was not how I grew up. It was not what I was exposed to. And I was making dinner and he said, "Do you have student loan debt?" And I said, "Yeah, yeah." And he said, "How much is it?" And I did something to evade the question. And he asked me again. I think he asked me 3 times before finally I blurted out, 160. I just started bawling, $167,000. Because I was so ashamed. And I was certain that he was going to break up with me on the spot. Because why would he want to be connected to this woman that had this debt? And the shame was that underneath it, I had no idea how to handle this debt, no idea. And I felt like it was a personal flaw that I even had it. It was then that I knew if I didn't learn how to be in business, if I didn't learn how to flow money, if I didn't learn how to change my relationship to money, and if I didn't learn how to understand myself as in essence marketable, that I would fail. I would fail miserably. And what I knew is that beyond the money, I didn't want to fail, because somewhere in my bones, I knew that I came here to be successful. And I knew that I wanted to do what I was here to do, which at the time I understood it in relationship to being of service to other human beings in a particular way. Mind you, I want to add a layer to this. Studying holistic medicine and holistic healing, built into that realm are these beliefs that if you focus on money and if you want to make money, that you're not actually in service to people. How can you be spiritual and want money? How can you really be of service to people that really need you and charge much money or want to make much money? So it's such a double bind. I didn't know how to be with money. And then the things that I was steeped in relationship to money were like, you shouldn't want to make money, but yet I have $167,000 worth of debt. And then deep inside of me, I feel that I'm meant to be successful and I want to flow big money. Like what? A clusterfuck, as they say. Messed up. So I proceeded to invest in myself. There was a beautiful chain of synchronicities. It was this, the universe heard my plea, and I heard about a seminar that I could attend that had to do with money. And then I continued with that particular organization to understand my business, to understand myself, to understand what I had to offer, to change my relationship to money. And each time that I took something, a study or a seminar or a retreat, I did not have the money at the time to do it. I didn't have the money. When I opened my practice, I took a $500 cash advance on a credit card to buy the supplies that I needed. I didn't already have the money. With each one of these leaps, I was risking. And with each risk, the return was multiple times greater than the risk. And what I began to learn is that the greater the risk that I took, calculated risk that I took in relationship to investing in myself with the things that really mattered, the greater the return. So the higher risk, the greater the return every time. And I had to do this step by step and show it to myself. Okay, I don't have the money. I'm risking. I'm finding a way to leverage to do this. And then the returns come. Same thing. I just did this step by step by step. My success in my business, in my clinical practice, and my success is in being a human being who continues to develop who I am and why I'm here and offer that up into the world, is directly connected to investing in myself in this way, to risking for myself, to leveraging on my behalf so that I can expand and grow. Now, this brings us to current day. And while I am deeply grateful for the higher education that I received, and deeply grateful that I was able to get student loans, because I wasn't in a position, I didn't have money, my family didn't have money for college education, and student loans made that education possible for me. It gave me the ability to sit for a professional license and have a profession for myself. That was the very base layer for me. If I hadn't risked and leveraged for the other specialized education, I'm certain that I would have been out of business. And in fact, I remember this statistic at the time, which is why I started teaching in the university that I went to 5 years after I graduated, was that within 2.5 years after graduating, that 25 to 33% of the practitioners would go out of business. And that broke my heart, that they would have followed their passion, worked so hard, probably also took out student loan debt, or were using money that their family had saved for them to go to school, to only then go out of business within 2.5 years. That broke my heart. It also shows that there's something off with the system. The times that we are in now are very different, and they will continue to accelerate in differences from what we have known before. What we've known before being you get your classic higher education, and that higher education prepares you to be successful in the workplace. This is not the case anymore. It's just absolutely not the case anymore. And I think that we have some measure of collective and cultural denial about this. At this point in the information age, oh, wow, there's a very loud lawnmower. I'm hoping it doesn't translate onto this very well. At this point, in this information age where most anything that you want to find out information on, you can look up successfully on the internet. The most important thing to develop for your success, do you know what it is? It's you. You are the most important thing to develop for your success, for your financial success, for your entrepreneurial success, for your personal success in your relationships with yourself and others. You are the most important thing to develop. And you might think, well, where do I start? What do I do? Wait, I did invest in myself. I got this higher education, and if you are not as successful as you want to be, as you feel you came here to be, it's not because you're broken or you don't have what it takes. It's because you need some more keys. You need some more pieces to the puzzle along your journey. And the longer you wait to receive those keys, to acquire those pieces of the puzzle, the more you will suffer unnecessarily. If you have the desire to be successful, or perhaps more successful than you are now, because perhaps you are quite successful, but you have the desires to be more successful, and there's these questions that come up like, should I get another degree? Should I study further? Should I work for a particular company? I mean, these are all valid questions. What I urge you to ask yourself is, what do you really want? What do you really, really want? I know for myself, I knew and I know that I want to flow big money with ease and grace that is for the good of all involved. I know that to the core of my being. And I know that I'm willing to give everything in this life for that, as a human experiment, if you will, that we can flow money as we develop ourselves for the good of all, that it's not in the win-lose paradigm, that it's not as Tiffany flows more, somebody else has less. I don't actually believe that that's the truth. We live in a time now where there is actually more money on the planet in circulation than there has ever been in the history of the world. It's not about grabbing the money and holding the money. It's about learning how to flow the money. And learning how to flow the money is directly connected to you developing yourself as an instrument. As an instrument, being the best that you can possibly be in whatever that you do. So whether you decide to go back to school, or whether you decide to work for a company, or whether you decide to be an entrepreneur or expand your entrepreneurial endeavors, the most important thing is developing yourself as an instrument. I call this honing our brilliance. And as we hone our brilliance, that is our spiritual work. That is our soul work. That is our money work. That is our empowerment work. And that is our entrepreneurial development. Honing the brilliance of ourselves. Going back a little bit to my earlier part of my story, as I knew when I was starting out my practice that if I didn't learn how to be with myself differently and how to be a different kind of entrepreneur, I would fail. I leveraged and risked for myself over and over, each time with money that I did not yet have, because I knew that if I didn't take that risk, the alternative was failure, and I didn't want to fail at that level. And every time, incrementally, I grew in success, not without challenges and not without failures. I had business failures. Each one of those failures is ultimately connected to the bigger success of me honing my brilliance and owning that in very important ways in the work that I do. So all of these experiences of investing in myself have paid off exponentially, and they continue to do so. And so now at this point in my life, in my career, and in my entrepreneurial endeavors, my work is dedicated to doing this in service to other entrepreneurs, to other leaders, to helping them hone their brilliance, develop themselves as instruments so that ultimately they can have what it is that they desire. Because I truly believe when we pursue the true desires of our heart, not only is that how we create better lives for ourselves and for our families, but that's how we create a better world. Us pursuing the desires of our heart is an act of service to others. It's the deepest, most beautiful act of service to others. I show up in the world. I show up for other people in my life. I show up for my clients in the most powerful, potent, and effective ways because I take so seriously the pursuing of my heart's desires. And what I begin to see more and more and more and more and more is that all those things are connected in the most beautiful, golden way. This energy of ultimately win-win, or this energy of amplifying the truth of abundance, is inherent in this way of living, this way of being. So now as we part ways, or just before we part ways, I want to share with you how it is that I support other beings in this particular way, and an invitation for you to follow what it is that you desire with action, with emergent action, because we can sort of wish and imagine all we want, but until we back that up with actual action, it doesn't really go anywhere. And we don't have time to waste. So what is different about these times versus previous times in history? In these times, specialization is more important than ever. Decreasing the amount of wasted time is more important than ever. Radically freeing up our relationship to money, aka releasing our baggage around money, is essential for us being able to move forward in success. And being able to understand how our particular genius, how our particular zone of excellence is necessary right now on the earth at this time, understanding that, and then how that plugs into your entrepreneurial pursuits, that is the golden thread right there. If you don't understand, first of all, what your zone of genius is, how to refine that, and how that directly connects to your entrepreneurial pursuits, you're just going to be, as that expression goes, running around with your running around like a chicken with your head cut off, taking classes, taking online things, trying to bring in more money, trying to get more followers on Instagram, trying all these things and developing freneticism and burning yourself out, or just working harder and burning yourself out. That's a waste of time. You don't have that time to waste. And why waste that time? So what's different about these times is that we need to hone in, we need to focus. You need to make calculated, we need to make calculated risks, or take calculated risks in service to what I just previously mentioned, honing yourself as instrument so that you can be precise in what you offer up in your entrepreneurial endeavors, so that they can be of deep service to what's needed right now. The needs are different now than they were 3 years ago. This is what I've devoted my educational and mentorship work to: how to help people hone their inner brilliance and birth the future version of them as they're birthing their entrepreneurial endeavors. So as you're birthing that project or that next thing that's in your heart and being to do, you're actually birthing the next version of yourself. They can't be separate anymore. For heart-based entrepreneurs, we can't separate those two things anymore. And we can't even separate it on the level of, I don't believe, it's not the most effective way if we separate it on the level of, and now I'm going to do this work on myself so that then perhaps I can be more successful in the business. No, it's happening at the same time. You're taking on your business and entrepreneurial endeavors. You're risking for yourself, and you're developing yourself soulfully and spiritually at the same time. That kind of work needs a very particular kind of guide. That is the kind of guide that I am. I am helping you to not only birth your next creative endeavor with success, but also hone and birth the next version of you, so that that success flows directly into your entrepreneurial endeavors. And how to not waste time doing things that don't work, or running around and spinning in circles, chasing the thing that you think is going to make you successful. The success is you. Letting that success of you spill out into your entrepreneurial endeavors with strategy, all contained within soul. That's what I guide. That's what I support. The containers that I have to do that are these. I'm going to mention them. And if any of these sound interesting to you, please reach out to me directly or to my assistant, Robin, and we can speak further about this. You can work one-on-one with me for 9 months or for 6 months. You can attend my Exponential You small group retreat. It's for people only in Sardinia, Italy, which is where I am right now, October 1st through the 5th of this year, 2022. You can choose to take an Exponential You private retreat with me. Really, we could choose anywhere in the world that you want to meet. Or you could choose to be in my Abundant Creator small group program, which begins in October of this year. All of these programs are designed to exponentially up-level your genius, your brilliance, your relationship to power, and your capacity for money flow. There is a science to this. There is a metaphysical science to this. And there's also I'm very mindful in this territory, because you know what this isn't? It isn't a cookie cutter approach to how to make money or be successful. In my opinion, that way of being is outdated. And I don't actually think that it's going to take us anywhere new. And it's not going to be what we actually need to develop our exponential selves in an exponential age. I develop these containers so that you really hone your brilliance for yourself. You claim it for yourself. But I offer the right kind of structure and some base level technique for developing your capacities so that you can soar, so that you can fly, so that you can do what you came here to do. Just before we end, I have a special note to those of you that are already significantly successful in what you do. I think that for those that are successful, it can be the most challenging to risk for yourself to go to the next level, because there's a temptation like, well, when I already, I'm making good money, I love what I do, and so on and so forth. And that's fine if you are completely content with that. Absolutely. Don't do anything different. Be with that. But if you are successful with what you do and you can feel that there's more that wants to flow through, oftentimes for successful people, this is scalability. It's time to scale your reach. It's time to scale your money flow. It's time to scale your own relationship to power. If you feel that, then it's time. It's time. If you feel the push or even a little bit of urgency around that and some uncomfortability, it's time. Why not choose the most delicious, brilliant support that you could possibly imagine as you birth the next version of yourself and scale what you're here to offer successfully with stability? All right. I look forward to speaking with you more if this speaks to you. And here's to our future, to the co-creation of a future that we dream and imagine is possible together. From my heart to yours, and until next time.